Okay, so our very first item is Z-21-32. This is a request at 4113 C Elders Drive. It's the request for townhome apartments. They're proposing a total of 16 on this 8.08 acre tract of land. This property is situated adjacent to the Elderberry subdivision. It has frontage on Elders Drive. The tip of it on the, I guess, southwest. I'm not good with orientation sometimes when these lots are sort of positioned differently, but it does have a pointed access along Jimmy Dice as well. And so the applicants requesting for B2 zone. Let's see, we'll have to start muting a little bit here to
Kevin, you muted yourself. There.
All right. Thank you. So this request is for 16 townhome apartments. Let's go through some of the findings here. This would represent phase 2 of their development. It only comprises of 16 townhome apartments. The phase 1 comprises of 44 units. So this is a substantially less proposal. Is a environmentally challenged lot. It's got some terrain and topography issues as well. The site currently remains undeveloped. And so staff, in terms of the networking, there is a proposal for a street to run or a driveway to run to connect these 16 units. We ask that there be sidewalks installed on at least one side to ensure better connectivity. 7 overflow parking spaces were shown on the plan, and they must meet the minimum parking standards. Overwhelming 86% of the lot will remain open space. So this is going to be conservation subdivision in the sense of development purposes. It's going to be mainly open space. A large detention pond is planned for the site. Oh, I'm sorry. I believe they're going to utilize the existing detention pond owned by the city on the south side of the property. Site has access to public water and sewer. There is a 20-foot wide sewer easement that runs through the center of the property. And so staff, based on the discussions we had during the virtual meeting, staff is recommending that the property south of that easement be rezoned B2, and then that the parts north remain R1 zoning. The applicant has indicated of potentially placing 1 or 2 single-family detached homes on the northern portion of the property. And so this will not affect that. That will be a separate process. The proposed driveway and development will not interact with that Elders Drive area. So this development will be completely separate from access to Elders Drive. One contact, we reached out to the county engineer regarding the nature of the traffic generation from the site, and the county engineer, our county engineer, recommends that there be a secondary attempts to coordinate with the Georgia Department of Transportation to secure secondary access to Jimmy Dias from the site to lessen the demands on Harper Franklin. And that's an overview of this proposal.
Okay. Are there any questions about the case? Commissioner Cooks?
Kevin, how likely is the GDOT access? Because I do know that the church that is north of Harper Franklin tried to do the same thing and they were denied because they're too close to a light. So is that something we need to take into consideration with reference to that secondary access? And if the secondary access is not obtained, are we putting ourselves in a quagmire or the community in a quagmire?
Yeah, the interesting aspect of this request is only because it relates to the 16 proposed units. Is not a large number, but overall, you add the first and second phases, it's, I believe, 66 units. So given the small scale of the second phase, the way that we word it is that they make efforts if they fail to accomplish, securing an access point, then it'll be something that needs to be addressed during the site plan review process of our county engineering office, and they ultimately will have to make the judgment of whether or not it meets the proposed configuration meets their standards.
And if I could piggyback onto that, you're right, Commissioner Cooks. They have in the past definitely not been receptive to access points along Jimmy Dias, but for Governor's Place subdivision, which is on the other side of Jimmy Dias, south of Harper Franklin, they did just grant them an access for the apartment complex that you zoned last year. So they have allowed a cut through now. So I don't know if it's just different people in charge at DOT or a different way of looking at it, but they did allow an access to those apartments. So we figure it's worth a shot to have them at least ask.
Okay.
Any other questions?
This is Deborah. I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So with this new change, they will not be able to they will not come on Elders Drive at all. It'll be closed off, correct?
Right, and it'll be very easy to sort of envision it once you see the site plan. There's no connection with the proposed development and the current access way or driveway access there on Elders. There's a road there already. They really seek to improve it a little bit to provide access to that city-owned detention area and potentially 2 additional single-family lots that will have to go through a separate process, but would be supported under the current zoning of the property pre this zoning process.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, next case.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is make sure, so we continue the withdrawal of Z-2133, that's 1310 Laurel. So the very next item is Z-21-34, and this is a request. This property is located at 3121 Peach Orchard. Is a request for a special approval of a special exception to construct a Aldi's grocery store that is 19,209 square feet. Commercial, structure in a B1 zone. The B1 limits individual and group buildings to no more than 15,000 square feet. So they're over 4,000 plus square feet. And they had the option to rezone the property or maintain the current zoning, B1 zoning, which has that size limitation. They opt for the special exception for the B1, just to make sure that there's some compatibility with surrounding structures and uses and zoning. There's residential neighborhoods in and around the area. And so the proposal is to request for a special exception. They are going to demolish the current structure on the property to construct this new grocery store. A small portion of the property is currently zone B2, but the building envelope It's just north of that area, so it does not lie within the current B2 portion of the property. It's a small portion. The property is currently owned by University Hospital with the current facility that they seek to demolish. This proposal will reduce the number of entrances on Reedville Road, which serves as a residential street. And then the freight movement would be shifted to the back of the building. Likely, I believe it's Floyd Road would serve as the access for the larger trucks. And so the concept plan, it also shows that a possible addition to the building that they seek to build. The downfall with the special exception, one is the timing. You have 6 months from the date of approval to submit for permitting, site plan review, to vest that right. The other downfall is that if they do seek to expand past what they've been approved through this process, they may have to go back through the special exception process. And it is currently under site plan review, this request.
Okay. Does that complete the report, Kevin?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Any questions about this case? All right, hearing none. Next.
Our next item is Z-21-35. It involves property located at 2108 Eastside Court. This is a residential zone parcel. It measures 0.32 acres. It contains a parking lot with mid-30s parking space, 36, 39 parking spaces. It was once part of the AT&T facility. Their overflow parking, they had it fenced off to store their equipment and vehicles associated with that operation. Applicants recently purchased the property and they seek to rezone the property from R1 to HI, heavy industrial, to operate a towing business on the property. And so HI is pretty high classification for this area, but it is required because they intend to store inoperable or junk vehicles, and that's the only zoning in the city that supports such a use. The current AT&T building adjacent to the subject property is zoned light industrial. Not really necessary for the type of use on the property, but it certainly satisfies the use operations there. And so with this lot, there's no proposals for any new structures. They want to make minimum alterations to the site there. This site, again, is enclosed by a privacy, well, it's a chain link fence, but it has a black privacy sheet or screen to add some screening there for viewing within the site. And there's a 20-foot wide gate to provide access to the property. So this does not comply with the comprehensive plan. There's one other thing. The site lacks natural buffers, so there's no wooded or fencing separation that the ordinance would normally require under the Augusta Tree Ordinance. It would require a minimum 10-foot natural buffer and a minimum 6-foot tall wood privacy fence. This is not going to be provided for the site. It also is in conflict with section 23-6, which requires a minimum separation for all industrial activities adjacent to residential, and that's 50 feet. And so that won't be provided. Activities are proposed to occur, right there against the property line on the other side of the fence. So this request in total is not supported by our comprehensive zoning. And so we recommend denial of this request.
Okay, all right, any questions about this case? All right, next.
The next item on the agenda is Z-21-36. This is the property involving 2110 Faircrest Avenue. This is a request to rezone the property from agricultural and general business to general business to support the development of 37 townhomes and 2 office buildings in the property. So the tract measures 5.3 acres and contains 2 warehouse buildings that were constructed back in 1946. The property is split zone, agricultural and B2. Approximately 0.46 acres of the tract is situated in the ag zone. They want to rezone that. The remaining 4.84 acres is already zoned for what the requested zoning, B2 zoning, calls for. The B2 properties there are B2 properties adjacent to the subject property as well. And they sort of spill over from Peach Orchard. They have frontages on Peach Orchard and Tobacco Road. So developers are seeking to develop 8 3-story townhome buildings in various units from 2 attached. So they're more like duplexes in a sense, in an interesting sense, from 2 to 4 attached units throughout the development. A variance would be required for the dirt level since our current zoning, even though the requested zoning is for B2, it reverts all the way back to the townhome zoning requirements, which limits the total height of townhome construction to 2.5 stories or 45 feet. So they would, if the zoning is approved for this development, a variance will be warranted, will be necessary, I should say, to support that dirt level. And if the variance is denied, they'll be limited to two stories or 2 levels there for those units. There is 1 entrance proposed for the proposed townhome subdivision and 2 internal streets. There are 2 separate entrances planned for the commercial side. The streets will have to be designed to meet the city requirements. Sidewalks will be required on at least 1 side of each street throughout the development. That's a typical requirement for a typical recommendation by staff. It's not supported in the ordinance, but it's typical of what we generally grant for planning commission cases. There are 185 parking spaces proposed for the development, much of which would be contained within individual driveways of each lot. The site, some of the things we found out that the site does not comply with or fall short. Site does not meet the minimum, let's see here, I'm sorry. The minimum side setback. So basically the end units, some of the lots do not contain 5-foot minimum side setbacks, which is required. You can't have a building line or a property line ends in flush with the building on the end units like they do on the internal units. There's supposed to be 5-foot separation from the actual building footprint and the property line, the proposed property line of the new lot. The site does not contain a stormwater detention pond. Building, so, and then it does not satisfy the open space requirement of 25%. So we're lacking there. Buildings proposed will measure 30 feet from the street. That includes the townhomes and the single family, townhomes and put that right there. The site will have access to public water, but there is no direct access to public sewer. And we have had some concerns during the virtual meeting regarding this aspect. So we did reach out to the utilities office, and this is the information they provided. So a private easement agreement will need to be established between the two properties, the site and the adjacent property, in which the public lines run under. So basically the public lines run under private land, and to extend that will require an easement that and an agreement between the two properties to provide that easement. Utilities will require a copy of that recorded easement showing that agreement that has been established and it's been recorded. The civil team, so their civil team for the development will have to complete a water and sewer demand form, which shows, that the calculations satisfy the city standards. So that will be the responsibility of the developer's civil team. They'll have to provide that information to our county engineers to assess, ensuring that it meets our standards. And then if it does, the deed is finalized and the city takes over ownership of that public line in the private right of way, and we will own and maintain. So that's, and what the county engineer, our utilities guy mentioned is that this is a 8-inch sewer main. So it seems like it would be able to support the development. And that's basically it in a nutshell for extending, but that agreement has to be made between the two parties. That's the most important part of that. And we find that this request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and provides a suitable transition from the residential area to the commercial along Peach Orchard, and if you look down Tobacco Road.
Okay. Are there any questions about this case?
Mr. Chair, Mr. O'Neill.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is Cliff Terrell, Cliff Ridge Neighborhood Association, Project Management.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Mr. Terrell, let me make sure I got, is Mr. Terrell
No, he would be a member of the public. He'll have to wait and speak at 3 o'clock or during that meeting time.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Terrell.
No problem.
Commissioners, any questions from you in regards to this case? Okay, hearing none. Next case.
All right, next item on the agenda is Z-21-37. This is property at Kendrick, 25 Kendrick Place. There's a request. I'm getting a lot of phone calls here, sorry. Okay, there's a request to rezone the property from light industrial to B2 general business. This is an effort to construct a 64 unit multifamily apartment complex on the property. Property is currently zoned LI, which prohibits any residential development. And the site measures 3.57 acres and remains vacant at this time. Kendrick Place, it is a residential street with a narrow pavement width of only 21 feet. So it's a very narrow road there. The site is wedged between an active rail line and Riverwatch Parkway to the north. And it is situated in the downtown development downtown development riverfront zone, so PDR zone. So any exterior elevations and materials will have to be reviewed by the PDR group. And then I believe the vote comes back to you guys is just how the bylaws are written to ratify their recommendation there or their approval. And so the group seeks to construct a 4-story, 75,000 square foot apartment building on the property. Property would consist, or the building itself would consist of 21 or 24 one-bedroom, 24 two-bedrooms, and 16 three-bedrooms, with 16 residential units on each floor or level. Amenities include fenced community garden, numerous outdoor seating, and covered bike rack at the main entrance. There was no indication of how many bike racks, but there are efforts to provide that amenity to the future residents. There are 116 off-street parking spaces planned, and that satisfy our parking requirements. Is 116 parking spaces. Based on the collection of different unit types, the 1-bedrooms efficiency and studio requires 1.5 parking spaces. 2 bedrooms or more require 2 spaces per unit. And so in terms of sidewalks, they are shown on the plan. Staff recommends additional sidewalks to better connect the site. Additional screening is needed to buffer the existing rail line that exists to the south. It's the south adjoining section there of the property. And provisions of the Augusta Tree Ordinance requires the 1 tree island every 12 spaces. So that will have to be incorporated in their final plans submitted to staff for review. One interesting thing about this proposal is that it's sort of landlocked in itself, and the way to the property from Kendrick requires a bridge. So that bridge will have to satisfy the engineering, fire codes, and standards. And as we talked during the virtual meeting, be wide enough to assess or address those emergency situations. The zoning requests we find to be consistent with the comp plan. It supports new infill at densities compatible with the surrounding area. We approved the King Mill rezoning request late 2019, so it'll be certainly compatible with that. And it's going to also provide affordable housing opportunities. This is sort of a negotiation that the Augusta Commission sort of initiated to have the overall development provide some affordable housing options, and this proposal to rezone a property would provide that option for those, needing additional housing. And that concludes this review.
Thank you. Are there any questions about this case from the commissioners? Okay.
All right. Next request is Z-21-38. It is a request of changing the zoning from agricultural to R1D, 1 family residential. There's a property located at 1235 Augusta West Parkway, and it's 18.33 acres. And so the request is to change the zoning from agricultural to 1 family, to construct a residential subdivision containing 75 lots with a density of 4.09 lots per acre. The subject property, as mentioned, is a little over 18 acres and is a landlocked parcel, so it has no direct access to a public street. The nearest is Augusta West Parkway, which measures, I believe we got a little less than 600 feet east of the subject property. And so their request is to develop the site, and they have a tentative agreement to provide access to the site through a stem road via 1249 Augusta West Parkway. So this is positioned southeast of the subject property. Now, we haven't received any formalized documents showing, stating this agreement or showing details of this agreement. There are two internal streets planned, the Spine Road that will connect from Augusta West Parkway to the site, and then a, I guess, larger internal street that would encircle the property, and the homes would sort of radiate mostly off of that internal street that sort of loops around to form an intersection with the Spine Road. The hope is to dedicate these two streets. It would meet the minimum standards for the city to become public roads. That's certainly their hope there. And the applicant, in the report, it states that sidewalks will be provided on both sides of the street. And that is not what the applicant was shooting for. They want the sidewalks to be on one side on the lots that are that touches the exterior boundary of the property. So it'll be the outer lots will contain the sidewalks. So that's one thing that was pointed out when we sent the staff report to the applicant. So that's certainly a point of clarity, that not to provide sidewalks on both sides, but only on the outer ring of the subdivision, those lots, the outer lots there. So the lots will have a minimum width of 43 feet and 4,300 square feet, 4,369 to be exact in the area. There is a 100-foot wide power line easement that runs along the northeast corner of the property. Stormwater detention will be provided on the southwest corner of the property. This is near the lowest point of elevation. The site has access to public water. It looks like there's a little bit of connection issues with the sewer, but the nearest line measures about 200 feet away. So it seems to be reasonable if they could find a connection to extend that. This development is consistent with the comprehensive plan, which supports infill at densities comparable with the surrounding development. There are some surrounding development that have a greater density. There's some with a lower density, so it sort of fits right in the middle. So we did receive some feedback from nearby subdivisions, and I just note one in particular, the Hill Creek area. And this is a joint response from Hill Creek and the cottages of Ensley. They have concerns about the separation, and they want there to be a requirement for maintaining the existing tree canopy around the edges of the property. They also state about adding fencing around the entire property. Now, staff didn't go that far. We stated, adding a fence along the homeowner lots on the west side of the property as a condition. They mentioned about placing signs saying that it's private property for the buffer zone. And they have a few other comments. They would be here to sort of discuss their concerns. This is a joint response from both Hill Creek and the cottages of Ansley. We received that this morning in the email. That concludes staff's review of the site.
Are there any questions on this case? Kevin, if they're not able to get that road off of Augusta West Parkway, is this is just an idea that they won't be able to pull together, or are we going to go in front of that?
There's other points of access to the site, and there will have to be agreements further north from the property that they're seeking to utilize further north of 1249. There's a few other parcels. It doesn't bode well for them. There's a couple of flagpole lots. And it appears that a building was built across property lines, which would make it would be pretty difficult. This would be their most viable option. If they aren't able to secure access through 1249, they'll probably have to go back to the drawing book. And they'll probably have to come back to us because that will represent a substantial change from the concept that was presented. And so if it doesn't work and they want to continue forward with the project, we'll hear about it. It'll come back in the form of an amendment to the zoning if approved.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Pittman.
Kevin, have you got a conceptual drawing of what these units are going to look like or proposed to look like?
Yeah, so it's, it really has a craftsman feel, a bungalow feel. This is geared more for the empty nesters and seniors, substantially first floor layouts. Certainly the bedrooms, all the bedrooms and kitchens and all of the necessities will be located on the first floor.
But you'll show that in the regular meeting?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we have 3 different versions that was provided to staff, and they will be presented on the slide.
The reason I asked is I didn't see anything in the package, so thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? All right, next case.
All right, so the next item I believe was continued Z-21-39. So we'll move to Z-21-40. And this is a request for a change in zoning from agricultural R1 and R1E, one family residential, to R1E, one family residential. And it's off of 2590 Tobacco Road. And the request is for more townhomes. So the adjacent property, I believe in 2019, we granted approval, maybe early 2020, I think it was 2019. We were granted approval for changing zoning to R1E for apartments. I mean, I always like to say apartments, for townhomes. And this is sort of like a continuation. These are fee simple mortgage, lots. These aren't apartments on one single parcel. So they will be opened up for home ownership. So the site measures 29.24 acres, and it remains vacant, undeveloped land at this time. As I mentioned, directly to the west was recently zoned to R1E. It's roughly the same size as this tract. And then directly to the east is the spillover to the commercial corridor, or more of a commercial node of Tobacco Road and Windsor Spring. So it does provide some of that transition that we look for when we are reviewing these type of requests. So the proposal is for 2 entrances onto Tobacco Road. There are sidewalks recommended for at least one side, standard condition. Their plan shows 6 internal streets and measuring 28 feet back to curve. With minimum requirements 31. So we want to ensure that that complies. And it appears that a few of the proposed lots, 3 or maybe 2 or at least 1 exceed 700 linear foot threshold as required in our land development code. So if the dead end road exceeds 700 feet, it may require a variance. We do allow for, in certain instances, additional 100-foot 100-foot difference, I guess. And so sometimes we allow for the 800 feet that's written in the code. But certainly with the dead end roads extending such a distance, and may trigger a variance on the dead end nature of the street. And so the homes will be placed on lots that vary in size. They're pretty narrow, from 20 to 24 feet in width. There is about 10.5 acres of open space that will remain or be dedicated as common area. This property has a power line easement that runs right through the middle of the property. And so the development, as you'll see on the site plan, sort of is built around that. And what the applicants are proposing is a walking trail within that power line area, but it would have to be approved by Georgia Power, who owns and maintains that power line easement. Deceleration plan lanes have been added to the plan, and that was a revision to the concept they originally proposed. A traffic study will be required in this case to further examine traffic demands and whether or not acceleration lanes will also be required. 2 stormwater detention ponds are planned for the site, one on either side of the development. Staff is recommending stub outs, and their revised plan shows stub outs to adjacent vacant properties to allow for future connectivity to those sites, to the site. Additional overflow parking has been added to the plan to meet our townhome parking regs. Some of the lots do not provide a 5-foot side setback. So that's a reoccurring theme that we kind of see when we assess these. So all of them will have to meet the minimum front, side, and rear setbacks, the rear being the greater of 20% or 25 feet, which probably be 25 feet for most of these lots. This development or this request is consistent with the comprehensive plan as sort of discussed earlier. It provides that transition and is a development of similar densities to the adjacent townhome development that was approved recently. And that concludes staff's review.
All right. Any questions about this case? No. Okay. Next.
And then the very last item is Z-21-41. That's the property at 3217 Skinner Mill. This item has been, as Lois mentioned, continued until further notice.
Okay. And that is the last case that.
That's correct.
All right, then.
Chairman,
Commissioner Cooks.
are we going to have to approve those continuances without prejudice?
Yes, we'll bring them to the front. Are you saying that we need to vote on all of them? Can we vote all at one time?
Yeah, I guess we got to hear them individually, but they're.
I'm gonna call out at the beginning of the meeting that items 2, 8, and 10. Well, 2 is withdrawn, and 8 and 10 have been postponed, so we can relieve anybody who's on the call with us. But yeah, we'll call it at the beginning.
All right.
Are any other questions? I am showing 2:46, so we have 14 minutes to go powder our noses. And I'll see you all back at 3 o'clock. Lois, is there anything else that we need to?
No, I think we'll be good.
Okay.
I'll see you in a few minutes.
See you in a few minutes. Lois.
Yes.
I think a couple of commissioners have not received the packets in the mail. Is there a way we can email it to them?
Do you know who it was? And did they not get the packet or just not the updated report?
Let's see. let me give him a call.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner
James,
Pitt. Yes.
that email that Lois is referring to was emailed to us the same day as the what do you call it?
And remember, it would have been coming from Amber, not me.
Right.
It would have been coming from
Right.
Amber. Right.
I pulled it up and I just made a copy of it a few minutes ago. It's in there if that's what they're talking about.
He's good, Lois.
James, I can email that to you if you want me to.
Sonny,
It came from Amber on the 24th.
Yeah, I'm all set. If you need something, James, let me know.
Sonny, was that from the West Augusta Alliance?
No, when we had our last meeting, Robert, Amber sent that report to us that evening on the 28th of April.
Oh yeah. I got that one. Yeah.
It's titled Z2140. If that's what they're talking about now, having received.
I got you. I remember that came in. Yes.
Elders Drive will probably have a bit of a crowd. If you are not here for that one, you may want to wait outside and give your
James, can you give me an audio check?
I hear you, Sonny.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm showing 3 o'clock. Once I see Lois or Kevin, we can start.
Commissioner O'Neill, we'll need a little bit more time. There's a steady stream of individuals coming in to sign in.
I think we're probably okay.
Oh, okay.
Lois, are you going to read the statement?
I can, yes. Would you like to call the meeting to order?
Yes. So it is 3 o'clock. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order.
Well, we will in a minute here.
I forgot that stuff.
There we go. Okay, this is the Monday, May 3rd, 2021 Planning Commission meeting. The Augusta, Georgia Planning Commission is a recommending body. The final decision on all zoning matters coming before it will be made by the Augusta Commission on Tuesday, May 18th, 2021 at 2 p.m. in the Augusta Commission chambers of the municipal building, or the room we are standing in now. The Planning Commission makes the final decision on all variances, including subdivision regulations. A handout describing the zoning procedures from which these cases are decided is available upon request. These procedures also require that any applicant for a rezoning action or any opponent to an application for a rezoning action who has made contributions aggregating $250 or more to a local government official within 2 years of the rezoning application file a disclosure report with the governing authority. The disclosure report must be filed within 10 calendar days of filing the application and at least 10 calendar days prior to today's hearing. A minimum of 10 minutes shall be afforded for the presentation of data, evidence, and opinions on each side of a rezoning petition or a special exception. If more than 10 minutes is afforded to one side, then an equal amount of time shall be afforded to the other. The Commission encourages participation in this hearing, and there is no restriction on who may address the Commission within the allotted time. but the commission asks that public comments be brief, on subject, non-repetitive, and directed to the commission, not to any individual or group. This is a partial Zoom meeting, so if you are on Zoom, if you would mute yourself so that no background noise interferes with the rest of the conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. And before we start, for those of you who are on the call for cases 2, which is Z-2133, and case 8, which is Z-2139, and case 10, which is Z-2141, we have had a withdrawal of case Z-2133, and we've had a postponement of cases 8 and 10, which were Z-2139 and Z-2141. So you can go ahead and feel free to stay with us if you're interested in the proceedings of the meeting, but those cases will not be heard today. But take a vote to postpone those, but I didn't want you to stay on the phone call and you weren't going to hear those cases. So in the meantime, I'll entertain a motion to postpone items 8 and 10.
So moved, Mr. Chairman, without prejudice.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposes? Okay, hearing none. And we can go ahead and start with our first case.
Okay, Chairman, the first case is Z-2132. This is a petition by the Harper Franklin Group requesting a change of zoning from zone R1C, one family residential with conditions, to zone B2 general business, affecting property containing approximately 8 acres and known as 4113C Elders Drive, tax map 66.2, parcel 173. This was continued from the May meeting in order to notify Fort Gordon.
All right, so as Rob indicated, this property is Z-21-32. It is a continuing item from the previous meeting due to failure to notify the Fort. And I go ahead and mention that the Fort does not find any issues with the request. So we did receive that notification response from them. And so the request is to change the zoning of the property from R1C, one family residential, to B2 general business for townhome apartments. And this is a property located at 4113C Elders Drive. Property, as you can see here on the screen, it is 8 acres, a little bit over 8 acres, 8.08. It is adjacent to Elderberry subdivision, has frontage on Elders Drive, and it does meet Jimmy Dias Parkway at a point. And so we reached out to our traffic engineering office, and their response to us was to include a condition that the group works with the department, GDOT, Georgia Department of Transportation, to provide a secondary access. But I wanted to bring that up since we could visually see Jimmy Dias here, Harper Franklin intersection. The new school was built further to the south there, kind of hard to say. I guess you could say northeast in a sense. And so we're going to move on. And so the site remains undeveloped, vacant land at this time. Phase 2 of the project will involve the development of 16 townhome apartments. They're going to be set up like townhomes, though, and this is going to be the second phase of the development. So this is where the mouse is here, the cursor. The first phase is already zoned for what the applicant intends to develop. It does comprise of 44 attached townhome apartment buildings. And so that is not a subject of this request. It's already zoned for it. And, this request will only involve the more environmentally sensitive tract that's zone R1, C or D. C. And so there are substantially fewer dwelling units proposed due to the overall topography. The land varies greatly and there are wetlands scattered throughout the property. This phase will consist of 4 townhome buildings. So 1, 2, 3, 4, each containing 4 units, as you can see. Now, with this plan that has been provided, is a preliminary assessment of the wetlands and localized flood areas. And you can see it says wet written throughout the site. And so what essentially is being proposed is residential dwelling units that intersect with the wetland areas. You know, the only way to sort of account for that type of development is to provide some infill to raise the level of the unit so that in a heavy rain event, that the area is not flooded. So there's only 1 internal driveway planned for this section 2 of the development. And there's 7 overflow parking spaces planned, which meets our overflow parking required for townhome construction. And so staff recommends there to be installation of sidewalks along the driveway, this driveway here, to ensure better connectivity and providing pedestrians with an alternative to walking into the street. No development or none of this development will intersect with the Elders Drive driveway that exists to the north side. So it's completely separated. It's separated by wetlands, and it's separated by sewer easement that separates the property. And so for that reason, staff find that we want to reduce the zoning requests rather than rezone the entire property to B2 to support this development, limit the rezoning to just south of the sewer easement, more or less, so that ensures that predictability in land development and is more compatible with the surrounding area. So that, as one of staff's recommendations, is to limit the rezoning to B2 south of that 20-foot wide sewer easement that runs across the center of the property. And much of the site will remain open space, 86%. So 86% of the site will remain open space due to those challenges. There is a detention pond owned by the city, and I believe it's this one here. And based on the applicant's discussions with staff, it's not shown on this plan, but they do seek to add 2 additional single-family detached lots to the north. As I mentioned during the pre-meeting, it's a totally separate process. This is not part of the request here to develop these 16 townhome apartments to the south. And this is the only area of discussion really. It's not for phase 1. It's not for the northern portion. It's for these 16 units that are being proposed. As I mentioned, Fort Gordon has no issues with the proposed development as presented. Our county engineer wants the developer to coordinate with Georgia Department of Transportation, or GDOT, to provide a secondary access tie on into onto Jimmy Dias to relieve some of the burdens from Harper Franklin, which staff does recognize the congestion that is experienced by residents along Harper Franklin with all the added new development in recent years. Staff also, however, finds this request to be consistent with our comprehensive plan. The development would be it would be developed at densities comparable to the surrounding area. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Is the petitioner present?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, he's coming.
Okay. Please state your name, your address, and the purpose of this petition.
My name is Robert Titus with EMC Engineering. We are located at 4424 Columbia Road in Martinez. And the purpose of the petition, as Kevin mentioned, was to rezone for continuity between phases 1 and 2. Phase 1 is already zone B2. Phase 2 would be also zoned for multifamily in the back on the little peninsula of uplands that are on the property. We're planning on no connectivity to Elders Drive. At the future, we may try to do some single family residence, just 2 single family residences up to where the road stubbed out now.
Okay, thank you. Is that all the information you would like to share with us right now?
Well, as you know, this was continued, and I think Kevin has got a little bit of an older plan. So Harper Franklin Group owns the entire quadrant, if you will, up there at Harper Franklin. With regard to the DOT access, there is a 10-foot non-access easement across that entire piece of property. So we cannot get access to Jimmy Dias. But their revised concept that I sent Kevin a few weeks back shows the continuation of the interior road on out to Harper Franklin. So there'd be 2 driveways on the Harper Franklin. So that would give us a secondary access.
Thank you. Have you provided that to staff that they can show it to us, what you're referencing?
Yes.
And I will say apologies for that, but that's probably one email that I missed. I don't miss many. In this case, if I bring up the, hopefully you all can see the initial concepts, and one that's included in the PowerPoint presentation. What it appears to be.
So this road extends on up through the Harper Franklin.
So it appears to be that the road extends up here. Does it tie into Zaxby's and that? No, that's a different.
Ties in directly across from that driveway that's already existing across the road.
Okay. Now, more importantly, the buildings look different in this one.
There are 3 apartment buildings on that peninsula.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are 5 townhomes. You were saying 7. There's 5 townhomes. That's what I was talking to you about last week, was the underground detention is here instead of the pond. And then the 5 units here, and then the apartment buildings on the peninsula down on the other end.
So there's notable differences between what staff has and was included in your packet from what is being shown. And this may be something you all want us to continue, given the vast changes in the layout and how the buildings appear on the plan.
All right. So what I think I just heard you say is that what he has now to show is vastly different than what we've been.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So this one, it has like apartment style, townhome apartment units here. There's 5 of them here. There's
3 apartment buildings with
3
units.
So these are 2 attached here. So 2 attached, yeah.
They're apartment buildings.
Yeah, so there's 2 attached here, and then one single 8-unit building here, 2 attached 8 units here. So it may be something we would want. We don't want to deliberate this on the floor. It's something we probably want to continue so that everyone we do a good assessment and everyone gets to see before time to vote.
I think that's fair, Kevin. That way, give the petitioner some time to speak to the subdivision as well. So
That's right.
I'll entertain a motion to postpone.
Mr. Chairman, could we have at least one speaker from the neighborhood to speak? Because I think they wanted to ask about perhaps having a meeting.
So let me ask you, Lois, so will they be talking about what they've seen to be, or do they have this information? What we had before?
No, they received what we had initially, what you had. So yes, they have not seen the new one either.
So in that they're about to ask questions on this information that is about to go away. Do you?
I just didn't know whether or not you wanted their request to meet with the developer on the record or not.
I recommend we get them on the record, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Mr. German, if just you would come up perhaps and just make that request so we can put it in the record.
Yes, give us your name, your address, and the nature of your objection and your request.
Good afternoon, Planning Commission commissioners and staff. My name is James Germany, and I reside at 4316 Reagan's Lane. That's within the Elderberry subdivision, 30909. I come before you today, sir, to in opposition, representing members of the Elderberry subdivision, as well as many other communities within the Harper Franklin area, opposing the change that was put before us. But my question, sir, is there any way that we as a community, as a neighborhood, as a body can sit down and meet with the developer to find out exactly what his intentions are? We never had an opportunity to meet with him. I think it's only fair that is done respectfully, sir.
I think by you placing that request in a record, and we're about to take a vote to postpone this, and that should give your organizations a chance to speak to the developer as we also get new information about what is actually being proposed. So thank you. Were there any other comments, Mr. German?
Hey, Chairman.
Yes, Rob.
I think you're going in the direction I was going to suggest, is that this be postponed, and not postponed until the next meeting, but postponed until there is a meeting between the neighbors and the applicant, and then we will reschedule. And it may or may not be next meeting.
Can now entertain a motion to postpone it per the guidelines.
I would like to make a motion to postpone.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
As long as necessary.
Lois, do you want to take that vote, or should I go ahead and make a roll call myself?
I think I might like some direction from the city attorney. How long can we continue, continue an item without having to re-advertise or start the whole process over again? We normally don't leave them open-ended.
I mean, it's my understanding that right now they're trying to just have it until the person can, I guess, have the opportunity to meet with the people and then, I guess, reschedule it. It would be nice if we could have something on the record where we know that they have a time, so we don't have it as being indefinite, because then that would be a situation. But what we can do as a way of resolving this is maybe if we don't put it down as for the next meeting, at least have a meeting certain that we should put it down. If they need to postpone it from that, then let them postpone it from that point.
I'd offer a substitute motion, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
A second. Oh.
Offer a substitute motion that the be postponed until July schedule, and if it happens before that, let it be happen. So
we have a motion to postpone the meeting until July. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so tentatively this is postponed until the July cycle of meetings unless otherwise notified by the petitioner.
Yes. Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members.
The next case then is item 3.
Okay, the next case is Z2134, a petition by Aldi Inc. on behalf of University Health Services Inc. requesting a special exception to establish a grocery store that will have more than 15,000 square feet in the B1 neighborhood business zone under section 21-7 of the comprehensive zoning ordinance for Augusta, Georgia. affecting property known as 3121 Peach Orchard Road and containing 2.84 acres, tax map 110.3, parcel 50.02.
So Z-21-34, this is a property involving 3121 Peach Orchard Road. It's a request for a special exception to allow for construction of a 19,209 square foot Aldi's grocery store in the B1 zone. So the property is split zone, by the way, is mostly B1 zoning. But the southern portion of it is B2 general business between Peach Orchard Road, Redale Avenue, and Floyd Road. Peach Orchard being the primary frontage, but the access is limited to Reedville and Floyd currently and proposed. Reedville and Floyd are also mainly residential streets. Reedville is more of a transition area from commercial to residential, and Floyd is more or less a residential street all the way with some commercial zoning. And so the current B1 zoning limits individual or groups of buildings to no more than 15,000 square feet per the ordinance. The property measures 2.84 acres. And so, as I mentioned, there's a small portion in the B2 zone, but the development is the actual building footprint of the proposed development is completely outside of the B2 zone. And currently it serves as a parking lot. The property is currently owned by University Hospital. And so that Lois did the research, at that particular time when the structure was built, that 15,000 square foot threshold was not in existence. So a new day and age with a more stringent requirements on the size limitation of the B1 zone. Let's see, the current proposal seeks to reduce the number of entrances on Reedville. If you remember a little bit from the aerial, there are two entrances, or there are currently two entrances with the University Hospital complex. It's going to be limited to a single access point on that street. 3 lanes for both proposed entrances. The entrance to the south would likely be geared more to freight movement, since the loading stations or docks will be positioned behind the building opposite of Peach Orchard Road. Floyd so that's more like a residential street as stated. And the concept plan indicates the possible expansion of the building in a future phase. Two of the issues we discussed during the pre-meeting is that with the approval of the special exception, the applicant has 6 months to vest the right. That's of the rezoning request. That's in the means of submitting for site plan permit. And it has been brought to my attention. They've already submitted the site plan, is under review. So if this is approved, they will already have vestige for the use. And then the other issue that could come up with a special exception approval is if they seek to expand larger than the specific amount of 19,209 square feet, they may have to go through the process again, certainly if it's outside of the B2 section there. So that concludes elevation here, and then the photos of the site, and that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Is the petitioner present?
Yes.
He's coming, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Well, my name is Troy Jordan, 1121 Johns Road, Augusta, and I'm here on behalf of Aldi.
Thank you. Please state the purpose of your petition.
Our petition is we've been working to get a grocery store down on the south side, and Aldi is a specialty grocery store, and their building size is approximately 19,000 to 21,000 square feet, including the loading docks. And this zoning is a portion of it is B1 and a portion is B2. And we're just requesting to do a larger store for that zoning.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in opposition of this application?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the petitioner? Hearing none. Staff?
Planning and Development staff recommends approval of the zoning request subject to the following conditions, and there are 4 conditions. Number 1, any outdoor lighting shall be directed away from nearby residences. Number 2, large truck or container parking shall be located away from nearby residences. Number 3, this project shall comply with all development standards and regulations set forth by the City of Augusta, Georgia at the time of development. And 4th, Section 9-3 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance states, if approved, a special exception must be initiated within 6 months of the granting of, or the special exception shall no longer be valid. The initiation of a use is established by the issuance of a valid business license by the Augusta Planning and Development Department or by other reasonable proof of the establishment of vested rights. If a special exception is granted and the use is initiated but later ceases to operate for a period of 1 year, then the special exception is no longer valid.
Is the petitioner willing to
approve with the conditions?
Yes, I agree. Thank you.
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Lois?
I have a motion and a second on the floor. I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Jefferson? Commissioner Jefferson, you may need to unmute yourself. Commissioner McKnight?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner McCauley?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens?
Yeah.
Commissioner Malice?
Yes.
Commissioner Poozer?
Yes.
Commissioner Bartlett?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooks?
Yes.
And Commissioner Spencer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jefferson, are you back on with us?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Did you vote in favor of this?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Okay. Next case.
The next case is number 4, Z2135, a petition by Jay Mitchell on behalf of Patricia Miles Mitchell, requesting rezoning from R1, 1-family residential, to zone HI, heavy industrial, affecting property known as 2108 Eastside Court and containing 0.32 acres. It's tax map 110-3, parcel 30.
All right, so Z-21-35. This is a request to change the zoning of the property located at 2108 Eastside Court from the current designation of R1, 1-family residential, to HI, heavy industrial. And this is all in efforts to support a towing business. And so with the designation presented, HI, it is required since business operations will likely involve the movement and storage of junk and inoperable vehicles. So the owner, a recent owner of the property, recently, just became recently the owner of the property, seeks to utilize the surface parking lot for such operations. And so the property is in the R1 zoning, as well as properties directly to the west of the property. Directly to the east of the property is the AT&T building, and it is situated in the light industrial zone. Doesn't need a zoning that's that severe for the AT&T use. At one point, it appears that AT&T owned this property, maybe were the previous owners, one of the previous, they stored their vehicles and their outdoor materials in that space. So the lot is enclosed by a 6-foot chain link fence and has a black screen to provide some screening from you know, the nearby properties there. And here's sort of what it currently looks like. It also includes a barbed wire fence or barbed wire on top of the fence, a 20-foot access gate to the site. So there are no buildings proposed for this location. It's more like just a storage yard or to store vehicles for the business. They are, the site lacks natural buffers. So as you can see, the fence is installed directly on the property line. And then you can see the brick house next door. So there's no buffers to screen, you know, this use. Normally, with the Augusta tree ordinance requirements for non-residential, abutting residential, there's a minimum 10-foot natural buffer with trees, I believe, have to reach 12 feet tall in 3 years and a 6-foot privacy fence. That's generally the standard. The other issue with this property is in conflict with section 23-6, which of the zoning codes, which requires a minimum 50-foot buffer for all industrial activities adjacent to residential. So as you can see, it goes from 50 to 0 in this case, where there's not going to be that separation. That's a direct conflict of this section of the code. The lot is only, I believe, 60 or so feet, so there's no way to accomplish that and meet the standard. And so this request to rezone, based on the preponderance of evidence and information presented, is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Is the petitioner present?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Please give us your name, your address, and the purpose of this.
Hello, I'm Patricia Miles Mitchell.
And I'm Jay Mitchell.
We reside at 3307 Blanchard Road. We purchased this property on February 22nd. Unbeknownst to us, we were under the impression we were purchasing commercial property. As we know, it's on R1. We're looking to go into a HI zoning for it.
Thank you. Is there any other information you'd like to share about this property?
This property is a paved lot. As Kevin mentioned earlier, the property was previously owned by AT&T Bell South building. It's been a paved lot and been in the area for years. That's the way it's always been. We want to be able to utilize the property to be able to put much as what they call a lay down lot, to be able to just put some vehicles on that lot. Wouldn't have any customers or anything coming to that lot, just be basically moving things in and out that we own.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience against this petition? Any opposition?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions of the petitioners?
Mr. Chairman, would the petitioner state again, you bought the property not knowing, I didn't catch the first part you said.
We purchased the property with the notion that it was a commercial lot. It was advertised on a commercial website. Listed as light industrial. But later on, it came information to us that it was actually residential.
And your intention is to store vehicles on the property?
Yeah.
Move them in and out along with your tow trucks?
Yes. But the tow trucks,
I'm sorry. So the vehicles will be there for a protracted period of time?
Pretty much in and out.
I think you need to step a little closer to the mic.
Okay. Yes, sir.
You want to repeat that, Ms. Miles? How long will the vehicles be there?
Pretty much kind of in and out, the vehicles will be there.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Staff?
Chairman, the plan development staff recommends denial of the zoning request. The proposal does not provide adequate separation or buffers, and it's incompatible with surrounding land uses.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
Make a motion to deny, Mr. Chairman.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to deny. Commissioner Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Jefferson?
Yes.
Commissioner McKnight?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright?
No.
Commissioner McCauley?
No.
Commissioner Owens?
Yes.
Commissioner Malice?
Yes.
Commissioner Poozer?
No.
Commissioner Bartlett?
You're muted, Commissioner Bartlett.
Yes to deny.
Thank you. Commissioner Cooks?
No.
Commissioner Spencer?
Yes.
We have 7 in favor of the denial and 4 against, so that motion carries. This will come up at the May 18th Augusta Commission meeting. That's where you get the final decision. You do need to come on May 18th. And you have a chance to speak then as well. Okay.
All right, so next case.
Okay, the next case is number 5, Z2136, petition by David Avery Jr. on behalf of Trotter General, requesting a rezoning from Zone B2 General Business and A Agricultural to B2 General Business, affecting property known as 2110 Faircrest Avenue, containing 5.3 acres, tax map 155, parcel 22.01.
All right, so this next request involves property located at 2110 Faircrest Avenue. It's on KZ-21-36, and it is a request to rezone from agricultural and B2 general business to B2 general business, and this is to develop a townhome subdivision containing 37 lots and commercial development with 4 units and total 2 buildings, 4 units. And so the developers are proposing to develop 8 3-story townhome buildings, varying from 2 attached units to 4 attached units. As mentioned during the pre-meeting, a variance will be necessary for the 3rd level based on the structure and how our ordinance reads. There's only 1 entrance proposed for the townhome portion and 2 internal streets. So the first here and the second there. Meeting the city specs. The streets will have to meet city standards, and staff generally requires or recommends, I should put in my head, recommends, not requires. So for the local streets, we recommend at least one side of the internal streets throughout development containing sidewalks. 185 parking spaces have been proposed, many of which will be contained along the driveways of each unit. The development does not meet a few items here for us. Doesn't satisfy the lack of not providing a detention pond on the property. It lacks the minimum 5-foot side setback required on some of the end units. They do not provide. They're just the property line ends at it matches the building footprint, but for the end units, there's supposed to be a 5-foot setback off of the building footprint. It's a little below the open space requirement of 25%, and so the concept plan shows 25%. open space, but we do not count driveways or private areas as open.
Kevin, can you hear us?
Appears to be frozen.
Well, at least one major change to the plan to account for some of staff's initial comments. And so, I mean, it's a much better product. So, but there's still those deficiencies on buffers and some of the setback concerns. The buildings will all be set back 30 feet from Faircrest. So it's Faircrest Avenue here, and the buildings are properly spaced from the street. The site, well, Faircrest is a residential street and measures about 30 feet. Oh, I'm sorry, residential street. Okay, so the site has access to public water. Sewer is available on the south adjacent lot, but it measures about 400 feet away from the property. The applicant has mentioned that they are in a tentative agreement with the south adjacent lot to extend the public easement line, to extend the sanitary sewer line through the private property. And based on concerns by the commissioners, we reached out to our utilities department, and our utilities contact stated that there must be a easement agreement established between the two property owners to extend the sewer to the property. Utilities will require a copy of the recorded easement showing that agreement has been made and has been recorded. The developers, civil engineering team will be responsible for completing the water sewer demand form and showing the proper calculations for indicating whether or not that line can meet city standards for this development. And then if it meets and it is installed, the city would then indeed it. So the city will then take control of that easement and maintain that line. So that's sort of how that process works. And it's been indicated that that is an 8-inch in diameter line, which should, the contact mentioned that it should be enough to support this development, since the only uses or the only development currently utilizing that line is the shopping center, the YMCA shopping center, and those buildings that they recently created or developed at the intersection. I believe is a Jiffy Lube, a Diablo's, and a car wash. So those are the only, that's the only development that's utilizing the line currently. So it should be sufficient as long as they are able to establish those that agreement with the south adjacent property. So staff finds that the request is largely consistent with the 2018 comprehensive plan. It provides a suitable transition between land uses there, that transition from the residential street to the commercial development off of Peach Orchard and Tobacco Road. Now we've gotten some feedback from the surrounding neighborhood, and let's see. I want to quote correctly this group here, the Pepper Ridge Neighborhood Association. And so this morning we received a few questions here. Well, actually it was provided on Friday after hours here, but these are some of the concerns that were presented to us. One is how would the residents and then the applicant could address some of these concerns here. how would the residents of those townhomes, once purchased, get in and out of the complex? Where we have the concept layout to address that one. Would there be additional traffic control for Pepperidge residents who live in the 1200 block of Faircrest to ensure the safety of the people and children that live on that block? The next question is that if the townhomes are not purchased, will the townhomes become rentals? You know, that could happen anywhere in the sense that, you know, you have a single family home or a residence, it could be rented out. Would there be security on site for the townhome complex 24 hours, 7 days a week? Would there be any living conditions or requirements, enforcement in terms of property upkeep and townhome and ground maintenance, lawn maintenance, building maintenance, sanitary pickup? And I believe this is a few more questions here. So are the townhomes actually for sale for the cost of $150,000 or more? And will the townhome complex have a homeowner association? And when can we see the architectural plans for the townhome complex, which we did provide? And this is sort of a rendering of sorts for the applicant presenting for this rezoning request. So I'm gonna leave these comments up here. If you know, the commission wants to elaborate further on these, we have the questions that were outlined. And I believe there will be a representative from that association to speak as well. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Is the petitioner present?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Please give us your name, your address, purpose of your petition, and
yes.
Like speak to any of those concerns left on your desk there.
Okay. David Avery Jr. I'm the developer, and this is my partner.
Kirsten Littles.
And what else you said you needed, Mr. O'Neill? Your address. Oh, address 3643 Staten Court, Augusta, Georgia 30906.
And the purpose of your petition?
709 Kingston Road, that is Grovetown, Georgia 30813, sir.
Thank you. And the purpose of the petition?
Yes, so the purpose of the petition is this zone B2 is a section of it, zone agricultural. So we are trying to develop some townhomes for resale and to commercial structures. So we need to rezone that entire lot to B2.
Okay. Would you like to address any of the points that Kevin left on your podium there?
Yes. Okay. I'll start down the list what he has right here. How will residents of the townhome once purchased get in and out the complex? That's the attached site plan, which he addressed right there. Will there be sufficient provided traffic control who live on the 2000 block of Faircrest Avenue? Unlikely turning lanes may be required on future traffic study. We haven't addressed that yet. We will need to address that. It just depends. Number 3, what if the townhomes are not purchased? Will these townhomes become rentals? Number 3, I'm going to keep going down the list if that's all right. Number 4, there be security on site at the townhome 24/7. And number 5, would there be any living conditions requirements enforcement in the terms of the property upkeep, townhomes, ground maintenance, lawn maintenance, buildings maintenance? And number 6, well, I stopped from 3 to number 5, excuse me. And what I want to say, it will be townhome covenants. There'll be standard townhome covenants. These will exceed the Pepperidge Association covenants, but they will be townhome covenants that will cover the townhomes and the commercial structures. So I think that would address all of that within the covenants. Number 6, are these townhomes actually for sale at a cost of $150,000 or more? And the answer to that is yes. We don't have a certain price. We do have a price range between $180 and $220 right now. Let me see. Will the townhomes have a homeowners association? yes, we will have a homeowners association. Like we said, we want that homeowners association to exceed the Pepper Ridge homeowners association, but we want to kind of incorporate both of them. And can we see the architectural plans? And they've already displayed the architectural plans. And I think one more I want to address was about if we're unable to sell, will they become rentals? No, these are going to be only for resale. And that's it.
Thank you, sir. All right, is there any, is that, Mr. Avery, is that everything that you want to present right now?
Yes, for right now.
Thank you. Is there anyone put an objection to the petition? And if so, does that that group have a representative?
Yes. There's no one in the chamber, but there may be someone on the Zoom line.
Okay.
Yes, I am. Yeah, this is Cliff Terrell, Pepper Ridge Neighborhood Association Project Management.
And please give us your address and the nature of your objection.
Yes, not an objection. I just have some questions. I'm 2107 Hollow Hill Way. I am a resident of Pepper Ridge of 20 years and on the association as project manager of the neighborhood association. I do represent that. And I appreciate you all having the opportunity to invite us to attend the Zoom conference. But Mr. Avery, you have answered those questions that we had.
Mr. Chairman,
one more.
Just a moment.
You're supposed to address the commission.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What I wanted to ask also, that it was not said about a fenced in or either the property being fenced in at all. Is that going to take place as well? Is there going to be a fence around circumferencing the complex, and then lighting also, because our residents will be there. We have about 1,200 homes in our neighborhood, 500 on that side on Faircrest Avenue. So a tremendous amount of traffic going in and out, as we already have businesses there, and a dental office also located in the same block. So would there be a fence around the complex and then adequate lighting?
Mr. Terrell, are those all your concerns there?
Exactly. I had already submitted these questions already to the commission.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in objection to this application that would like to speak? Okay. Mr. Avery, would we have some time? Is there someone else online who has an objection? Mr. Avery, would you like to speak to any of those points that were not covered by your first presentation?
Yes. Yes, there will be a fence. It will not be a fence in the front, but yes, it will be a fence going around the property. We did not put that on the site plan. I will have an updated site plan or architectural plan that will display a fence. We don't have the type of fence right now, but it will be a fence. For us lighting, yes, we will have lighting. Now, I don't want to get too specific because we haven't had the details of that yet, but yes, we do plan on incorporating lighting, so that area will be well lit.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions of the petitioner? Hearing none. Staff, your recommendation?
Chairman, the plan development staff recommends approval of the zoning request subject to the following conditions, and there are 8 conditions. Number 1, the proposed development shall substantially conform to the concept plan submitted with the rezoning application to include the fence. Number 2, proposed townhome shall not exceed 2.5 stories or 45 feet without approval of a variance by the Board of Zoning Appeals. Number 3, revised concept plan to include a minimum 5-foot side setback for lots containing N units in areas not considered a required front yard or building setback. Number 4, proposed commercial development must comply with all aspects of the Augusta Tree Ordinance. Number 5, site plan must satisfy the minimum open space requirement per sections 13-9 of the ordinance. Number 6, any parking or security lighting shall be directed away from adjoining residential properties. Number 7, install sidewalks along Faircrest Avenue adjacent to the property and throughout the subdivision as shown on the concept plan. And number 8, this project shall comply with all development standards and regulations set forth by the City of Augusta, Georgia at the time of development.
Petitioner willing to adhere to those recommendations?
Yes. So.
Motion to approve with conditions.
Second.
Second.
Lois?
I did not get who seconded, please.
Second.
Mike, thank you. Okay, we have a motion to approve with conditions and a second on the floor. I'll take the vote. Commissioner Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Jefferson?
Yes.
Commissioner McKnight?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner McCauley?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens?
Yes.
Commissioner Malice?
Yes.
Commissioner Poozer?
Yes.
Commissioner Bartlett?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooks?
Yes.
And Commissioner Spencer?
Yes.
Thank you very much. That motion carried unanimously. The final decision will be May 18th in this room.
All right, next case.
Okay, number 6, Z2137, a petition by Augusta Cyberworks 2 LLC requesting a rezoning from LI Light Industrial to B2 General Business, affecting property known as 25 Kendrick Place and containing 3.57 acres, tax map 36-1, parcel 3.
So this petition, Z-21-37, involving property located at 25 Kendrick Place, is a request for change in zoning from light industrial LI to B2 general business. And this is to support a apartment complex. The property is currently zoned LI, and neither LI and HI support residential development. That change was made in the ordinance a few years ago to strip that residential aspect out of the industrial zones. The site measures 3.57 acres and it remains vacant at this time. Kendrick Place is a residential street, has a narrow pavement width of only 21 feet across. The site is wedged between an active rail line that sort of is positioned between the site and King Mill, and then to the north is Riverwatch Parkway. And so this would be clearly visible, certainly from Riverwatch Parkway. Not sure too much because I know there's some elevation change or whatnot from Hammond's Ferry across the river there in South Carolina. So it's a 4-story building, so it may be visible from that point as well. The property is situated in the planned development riverfront or PDR zone. And so those renderings or the final rendering and materials would have to receive approval from that board as well. And you can see the surrounding zoning. We recently rezoned back in late 2019, the big section of King Mill site, at least the original footprint of the building, and some auxiliary structures attached to it, from light industrial to B2 to support apartment development. And so this is sort of an extension to that rezoning, that proposal, but the access will be off of Kendrick Place, with there being a sort of channel here. And so a bridge is proposed to provide direct access to the site. So the proposal here is to construct a 4-story, 75,000 square foot apartment building on the property. This is marketed for affordable housing as part of the agreement sort of made between the Augusta Commission and the developers for the King Mill site. And so the building will be comprised of 24 1-bedroom units, 24 2-bedroom, and 16 3-bedroom units with 16 residential units on each level. The amenities will include a fenced community garden, numerous outdoor seating, as you can see on the plan, and covered bike racks at the main entrance of the building. The proposal is for 16 off-street parking spaces. That's the minimum requirement. That's what's proposed to be provided. This plan does not account for the tree islands, which a lot of these concepts don't necessarily provide, but there will be a tree island required for every 12 spaces per the Augusta tree ordinance. And so sidewalks are shown on the plan. We want more sidewalks, so staff recommends with the plan to provide more sidewalks or trails to in efforts to provide more connectivity. Additional screening is needed to provide sort of a buffer between the proposal and the active rail line. The proposed bridge that is located here on the west side of the property between the site and Kendrick will have to be designed to meet the county's engineering and fire codes. We talked a little bit about it during the virtual meeting about its overall width. It has to be a proper width there for larger emergency vehicles to sort of navigate and assess any issues that may occur there on site. The request staff finds is consistent with the comprehensive plan, which supports new infill at densities compatible to the surrounding area. And I guess notably the King Mill, since along Kendrick is mainly shotgun mill houses, and there's some density there, but they're all one family. This proposal is to provide more affordable housing opportunities, which is also clearly defined in the purposes and intent of the comprehensive plan. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Is the petitioner present?
Yes. He is coming right up.
Please give us your name, your address, purpose of your petition.
Robert Ray, 2500 Trade Center Drive, Evans, 30809.
And the purpose of your petition?
The purpose of the petition was, as I say, to request the rezoning from what was light industrial. This site sits between the old King Mill and Riverwatch Parkway. It was previously, many years back, a site for some of the old mill houses, which were demolished. And there's certainly, we felt that there would certainly be a great demand for affordable housing, which, given the location of the site, would also complement the rest of that entire campus, if you will, being King Mill and as well as Sibley Mill, which is a bit further to the west.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in objection to this petition?
Not present, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I do not see any activity online. Commissioners, do you have any questions of the petitioner? Hearing none. Staff?
Chairman, the Planning and Development staff recommends approval of the zoning request subject to the following conditions. There are 5 conditions. Number one, the proposed development shall substantially conform to the concept plan submitted with the rezoning application. Number two, exterior design, material, and other features must be approved by the Riverfront Development Review Board. Number three, any parking or security lighting shall be directed away from the adjoining residential properties. Number four, must comply with all aspects of the Augusta Tree Ordinance, including adequate buffering and screening along the railroad. And number five, the project shall comply with all development standards and regulations set forth by the City of Augusta, Georgia at the time of development.
Is the petitioner willing to adhere to all those recommendations from staff?
Yes.
Entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
And I'm sorry, I missed the second. Which one of the commissioners? Thank you. Okay, we have a motion to approve with conditions on the floor. Commissioner Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Jefferson?
Yes.
Commissioner McKnight?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright? Commissioner Wright? Commissioner McCauley?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens? Commissioner Owens, has he stepped off maybe?
Right is a yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Malice?
Yes.
Commissioner Poozer?
Yes.
Commissioner Bartlett?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooks?
Yes.
And Commissioner Spencer?
Yes.
That motion carries with Commissioner Owens out, I believe. Thank you. This is May 18th in this one.
Right. Next.
Okay, the next item is number 7, Z2138, a petition by Matt Mills on behalf of David Law requesting a rezoning from A, agricultural to R1D, one family residential, affecting property known as 1235 Augusta West Parkway and containing 18.33 acres, tax map 30, parcel 62.
So this next request, as stated, is Z-21-38. It's property located at 1235 Augusta West Parkway. The request is to change the zoning from agricultural to R1D, and this is in efforts to develop a 75 lot residential subdivision on the property. So the property measures a little over 18 acres, 18.33. And it is a landlocked parcel, meaning there's no direct access to a public street. The tract, as stated, remains agriculturally zoned. Basically, everything around it is developed. More recently, Brookstone North directly to the south. A couple of years ago, they got a property rezoned, and we're still issuing out permits for building permits for those new homes. The property, as stated, does not have access to Augusta West Parkway, and it measures about 600 feet, a little shy of 600 feet east of that property, of the street there. And so access is planned via 1249, and I'll show you Augusta West Parkway, and I'll show you on the next map. But before I do that, I will show you here or identify all the commercially zoned areas is directly to the east of the subject property. And then you have a PUD to the west, that's that grayish color tone. It's very comparable to what you would find in a higher single family zoning. And then to the north and to the south are, I think, variations of R1E zoning. And so this property would sort of fit in the middle in terms of the densities established in this particular vicinity. And so this is the site plan for the proposed development. Identifies two internal streets here, one acting as a spine road from connecting Augusta West Parkway to the internal street within the site. And then the larger internal street sort of encircles the property. and most of the homes that now are basically radiates from that internal street there. And there's a power line easement, I believe it's 100 feet wide from end to end. And then on the other side of that is 3 additional proposed single family detached houses. So 75 lots in total. And let's see, and so with that access point, with the Spine Road here, this is the property to the southwest corner. It is addressed at 1249 Augusta West Parkway. Staff has been informed that there is a tentative agreement between the developers and the adjacent property to basically create this road, redefine their access points to this new road, as well as providing new sign for the site that will include the residential development signage and the existing commercial development. All of these, both of these streets are proposed to be converted to the county or city to as a public roadway, meeting our specs. There's one point of clarification we need to make in terms of the report. We stated that applicant's letter proposed sidewalks on both sides of the street. That is not the case. It's only on the side where the lots abut more or less the external boundary of the property. So, you can kind of get that where I'm going with that. So it wasn't indicated on the site plan from the start, but it was indicated in the letter. And when the staff report was read, it just misinterpreted it. So it's only going to be on one side, on the outer lots there that surround that street. So the lots were measure a minimum of 43, I'm sorry, a little dyslexic here, 43 feet wide, and a minimum, that's the minimum size. So some will be slightly larger. And then 4,300 roughly square feet in area. Stormwater detention is provided on the south west corner near the lowest point of elevation. In our GIS mapping, it did identify some of the surrounding properties as wetland areas. There's some localized floodplain, no FEMA floodplain areas. It looks to be like this is, there's some environmentally sensitive features in the surrounding area. It's probably a little spillover into the site. The site has access to public water, but lacks direct access to sanitary sewer. We did a look overview to see where the nearest sewer lines are. There's some there are a couple within 200 and 300 feet of the property. It seems reasonable that could be extended through the development site plan review process. Staff finds that the development is consistent with the comprehensive plan, which supports infill at densities consistent with surrounding development, more like some of the other ones we've approved with the consistency of like for like development. And this is similar to those. And this concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Is the petitioner present?
Yes, he's coming.
Please give us your name, your
address. Thank you, Kevin. It's Matt Mills. My address is 3009 Lake Forest Drive, Augusta, Georgia. The property in question is about 20 acres. For the last 10 years, it has been an open field with some larger trees on the perimeter of the property. As Kevin mentioned, the property is landlocked. This has been a challenge for a number of developers that have sought to develop this property. I think we're the 5th or 6th developer. We have been successful in negotiating the purchase of 3/4 of an acre from a large real estate investment trust that owns the former ice skating rink, which is now the Defy trampoline facility. So that contract's out for signature as early as this morning. They've approved the final draft. That will give us access, which we will be able to provide a 60-foot right-of-way to have access that meets the county standards to the subdivision. We've also spoken with the Brookstone development about a potential emergency access through their development as recently as last week. So we anticipate being able to fulfill that need. All in all, it's less dense than what other developers have proposed. I think we're going to have less than 4 units per acre with the current development plan. We've not actually done civil engineering, but we have, at the request of staff, met with the surrounding developments. We met last week with the Hill Creek, some members of the Hill Creek Property Owners Association. I think we had a good meeting. We share their desire to keep a buffer between our development and their development. I think it will serve us well as we attempt to sell homes at the rear of the subdivision abutting them. We proposed a 10-foot buffer on the entire perimeter of the property, and we are willing to put a perimeter fence inside that buffer all the way around the property. That was a request that the Property Owners Association made to us as recently as today. It's anticipated that most people will have fences in their backyards, and we see no problem with continuing those so that the entire perimeter has a fence to our neighbors. In order to potentially address some of the other concerns that I was given today, as I mentioned, most of the larger trees are on the perimeter of the property. The rest of the property is fields. It is our goal to supplement, not to remove the trees on the perimeter, is to leave them undisturbed and to supplement, if there's any gaps, to supplement the tree cover with smaller trees that fill in and form more of an opaque buffer between us and our neighbor. We are happy to place signs on the perimeter of the property in the buffer zone, denoting it's private property and restricting any members of our subdivisions from entering into the Hill Creek subdivision. We have not delineated the wetlands. I signed a proposal this morning to delineate the wetlands, and obviously we're not allowed to stay within 25 feet of those wetlands and do any development. So the wetlands will be protected. And we will be seeking advice from John Ostry as to whether or not a traffic study is warranted. All of our traffic will be on Augusta West Parkway. I'm happy to answer any other questions. Other than that, I believe it's
one thing I forgot is the elevations here.
Oh,
you
sure.
You may want to touch upon it. I'll reach right here real quick. Sorry. Let's see. There you go.
So before you are 3 elevations that we submitted to planning. It is our goal that the floor plans that we are envisioning will attract empty nesters. We believe that this site will have smaller yards, kind of a lock it and leave it product. We believe that our target market for this subdivision will be empty nesters or young professionals. But those are some elevations that our builder came up with that should be in keeping with what we will build there.
All right, thank you. Again, is there anyone in objection to this petition present?
Oh, yes, we have one speaker. Are any of the rest of you here? They're with me. Okay, can I see a show of hands, please? Okay, so we have 3 present, Mr. Chairman, and 1 speaker.
Okay.
Thank you. My name is Sharon Kaminer. I'm at 2708 Wayhill Court in Hill Creek. So Hill Creek has 134 homes. We've seen a lot of changes in the past few years, some of which have negatively affected our properties, but we've been pretty resilient, so we have a lot of beauty and value. The proposed development is similar to our homes. We understand that. But our homeowners have a major concern about where the property abuts Hill Creek along our amenities. This is specifically our pond, our tennis courts, pool, clubhouse area. In the past, all of the properties that were built around us touched the backyards, and the backyards could then be fenced.
We'll put up the concept so that they could follow you. No, you're fine. You're doing great.
Can they?
No.
That's not.
That's definitely not gonna help. Let's see. There we go.
So actually the one before is better. So if you, this one helps you understand that we are the PUD development to the left, and the left line of this property, I'm not sure which direction, directly abuts the pond, and on the other side of the pond are all of the Hill Creek amenities. In the past, that was a farm, it is agricultural zoning, and there was a barbed wire fence that completely encircled that. So we are certainly against having an open community that would allow for persons to cross into that and create increased liability for our association. We appreciate that the developers have met with us, they've answered questions, but what we are asking from the commission is that after 30 years of paying dues, that we're asked for county support and consideration in making this a requirement, that we have the perimeter fence, that we have the tree buffer. As Mr. Mills noted, they are large trees. Some of them will be in the buffer, but all of their canopy will be at risk outside the 10-foot buffer. We would like the signs at the back of the property, as he alluded to those, and protection of our wetlands as the bottom corner. Also, a traffic evaluation along Augusta West Parkway. Everyone was talking about Brookstone as being built, but in reality, that is in process. So all of that volume of traffic will be entering Augusta West Parkway at exactly the same time as this development. And so we think a traffic study would be very helpful to those of us who try to come out of our neighborhood and turn left down toward Wheeler. So we are not against this rezoning, but we would like some caveats to help protect our community.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Is there any other speakers for the opposition? No?
No, sir.
Okay.
Unless there's anyone on Zoom.
I don't see any hand raised.
Then, commissioners, do you have any questions of the petitioner?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Pittman.
May I ask the Mr. Mills how wide that is an exit is that one road?
The exit is a 60, we're buying a 60-foot strip so that we'll be able to donate it to the city as a 60-foot right-of-way, which is the minimum required right-of-way for a residential road. And for the record, we are okay with all of the requested conditions. If you want to impose those conditions, the only one I would ask that we defer to the traffic engineer would be the traffic study, because I have done traffic studies on roads that are at 25% capacity and basically wasted the money. So I don't know what capacity Augusta West Parkway is right now, but I would defer to the experts as to whether or not a traffic study is warranted.
Thank you.
Any questions from the commissioners? Staff?
Okay, Chairman, the Planning Development staff recommends approval of the zoning request subject to the following conditions. There's 7. Number 1, the proposed development shall substantially conform to the site plan submitted with the rezoning application. Number 2, the proposed subdivision shall not contain more than 75 lots. Number 3, a shared access agreement must be provided, including consent from the adjacent property owner in order to develop the site. And number 4, provide sidewalks as discussed during this meeting. And the way I understand it, it's on the outside of the circle lots. Number 5, installation of a minimum 6-foot tall privacy fence along the property lines of the proposed lots on the west side of the tract. And number 6, a minimum 10-foot buffer is required between the boundaries of the tract and lots 65, 70, 73, and 74. And number 7, the project shall comply with all development standards and regulations set forth by the City of Augusta, Georgia at the time of development. And that would include a traffic study as determined by the traffic engineer.
Thank you. Is the petitioner willing to adhere to?
And that's all.
Thank you, Director Sherman. Is the petitioner willing to adhere to those recommendations by staff?
He's saying yes.
Okay.
Matt Mills, yes.
Okay. I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with conditions.
Second.
All right, thank you. We have a motion to approve and a second on the floor. Commissioner Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Jefferson?
Yes.
Commissioner McKnight?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner McCauley?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens, I believe, has left the meeting. Commissioner Malice?
Yes.
Commissioner Poozer?
Yes.
Commissioner Bartlett?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooks?
Yes.
And Commissioner Spencer?
Yes.
And that motion passes unanimously to those present. Thank you.
Next case.
Okay, the next is now 8 and 10 have been postponed. Number 9, Z2140, a petition by H&A Development on behalf of Margaret Mayo Cordell Kaufman, requesting a rezoning from zone R1, one family residential, and A, agricultural, to R1E, one family residential, affecting property known as 2590 Tobacco Road and containing approximately 29 acres. It's tax map 141, parcel 4.4.
Okay, our last zoning petition, Z-21-40, is the property located at 2590 Tobacco Road. As stated, this is a change in zoning from agricultural R1 and R1E, one family residential, to R1E, one family residential, to develop a 200 townhome subdivision. So the property is outlined here, and as you can see, the property to the west of the site, it was recently zoned R1E for townhome development. There's single family detached zoning or single family zoning directly to the south. Directly to the north, the property abuts Tobacco Road, and to the east, the land development transition more to commercial, following the node there of Tobacco Road and Winter Spring. So it's got a transition going on there. This development proposes 2 entrances onto Tobacco Road, one here to the east. Another is utilizing an existing street, dead-end street. It's going to tie into that. There are 6 internal roads planned here that maybe a couple or so, we'll have the applicant better explain this. This is Terry's report, but it appears that there may be a couple of instances where the road, the dead-end street, exceeds the 700 linear foot distance as stipulated in our land development codes in terms of the threshold for dead-end streets. These internal streets, staff recommend have at least sidewalks on one side of the street. The plan shows a 28-foot wide back to curve, where the required width is 31 feet. And so there have been some revisions to the plan, and it seems like the applicant is willing and able to make even more adjustments to get it where it needs to be. These homes will be placed on lots varying in size from 20 to 24 feet in width. So they're pretty narrow lots, but typical for subdivisions in a sense. There will be approximately 10.5 acres to remain open space or common areas for the development. There's a power line easement that runs through the center of the property. You may or may not be able to see it, but I kind of run the mouse over here through that area with the cursor. And so it splits through the middle. It's owned by Georgia Power. A trail is planned within that, but it has to be approved by Georgia Power. And as you can see, the development sort of molds itself based on the configuration of the site itself and that easement. So you have some diagonal streets going on and that sort of thing to sort of develop around that obstruction. And so the plan has been revised to include deceleration lanes at the 2 proposed entrances, or one is already existing, but it's going to be altered essentially. And a traffic study, given the number of lots, 200 lots there, will be required to examine traffic demands and whether or not acceleration lanes will also be needed to access the site. And so 200 lots is an important aspect of this development. I believe originally there was a couple or so more than 200, but once you go over those thresholds, it will require additional entrances. And so I believe this revised plan that was provided caps it at 200 square feet, and we'll let the applicant speak a little bit more on that. And then there's a few stub outs, notably here, and I believe these 2 locations here was recommended by staff in terms of providing connectivity if any development were to occur on the other side of where these stub outs exist. And we have elevations that were presented. These are not all the elevations, and we have a few more comments here. So there are 2 stormwater detention ponds, one on either side of the lot. Additional overflow parking has been added to the plan. Some of the end lots do not contain the minimum 5-foot side setbacks as required by the code, and the applicant will have to, at some point, account for those. Rear setback must be the greater of 20% of lot depth, or 25 feet. In most cases, it's 25 feet. And then for townhomes and aspects of the development, is supported by the latest adopted comprehensive plan, the 2018 comprehensive plan, given the proximity to the commercial and being wedged between that and the townhomes to the west. And these are elevations that were presented. There were many more, but these are 4 of them, so you get a general sense. 1 car garages, 2 levels. They're going to be a mix of this and a few others, and then photographs. 1 of the side of the property, 1 looking along Tobacco Road, and some single-family detached across the street on Tobacco Road. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Is the petitioner present?
Yes. Yes.
Please give us your
Good
name.
Afternoon. John Henderson, and I'm 614 Brigham Road, North Augusta, South Carolina, 29841.
Paul Harrison, 718 Lowndes Hill Road, Greenville, South Carolina, 29607. You want me to? Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Mr. Chairman and Planning Commission members, thank you for your time tonight. We're proposing a rezone to accommodate a 200-unit townhome community. The different coloration in the building footprints is 2 different unit types. We basically have right at a 50-50 split on the unit types. We have a 20-foot wide product, and we have a 24-foot wide product. We do intend, we're proposing a 60-foot right-of-way and public roads within the community. We're showing a 10-foot buffer around the external property line, as well as a 25-foot exterior building setback around the property line. You can see in certain areas where we have little, sorry.
I'm gonna
put up the site plan.
Yeah, usually we'll take it off, but it is necessary in this case for you. Let's see. There we are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you can see in a couple of the pocket areas where we have little pull off spaces. That's just our additional visitor parking, and also gives us a good location for mailbox clusters as well in those areas. We do have 2 permanent stormwater retention ponds on site. You guys identified the 60-foot gas easement that kind of bisects the property and kind of lends the layout or dictates the layout just based on the general location and the way the gas easement splits the property. I don't remember all the comments, but I did remember one important one. It sounded like about the 700-foot. I apologize. We do have one roadway. It's the road ELF to the southeastern, the southeasternmost road is slightly over that 700-foot threshold. That's not a problem. We will definitely pull that back. We're 7 feet over on that one, so apologize for that. What other comments did do you want me to address those other comments that that you brought up during your presentation?
Let's see. What's some of the other ones that we had? The 5-foot side setbacks on the in-lots.
Yeah, those are accommodated in this site plan. So we did accommodate that. So we have the property lines on the exterior units on these accommodate the 5-foot side setback for all interior units. I mean, and the end caps.
And this is, when was this provided, this site plan here? After we did the staff report? Or?
I'm not sure. It was
last week. It was like Thursday, Friday last week.
And as I mentioned during the presentation, you guys have been steadfast in responding to addressing our concerns. So we have every confidence that you guys, I don't think we had any other, you addressed the dead end. I think that was mainly it. And then we're going to have, we're requesting the traffic study for the traffic generation.
And we fully, that's a good point. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. We fully intend to, matter of fact, we're working to get proposals on to have a traffic study done. So we fully intend to do that, and we fully intend to abide by the recommendations that are set forth in the traffic study, as well as any city and or GDOT recommendations as well. And I'd like to just end with, we think this we think this is a good area, and we think this is a good project, and look forward to you guys hopefully supporting this application, and we'd be glad to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Thank you. Is there anyone in objection to this petition?
Excuse me, my name is Darlene McQuarrie. I am not in objection, but I wanted to know, what is the price range for this townhome community?
Okay. Are there any other
we don't have an exact price. We have a range, and it's going to range anywhere from $185,000 to $230,000, just depending on unit size.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else in objection to the application? No? Commissioner?
No, Mr. Chairman, no one in the.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Mr. Chair, I have one. Go ahead, Sonny.
Moses?
Go ahead, Sonny, go ahead.
Okay. There's a developer, I didn't hear any discussion, it's a 200-unit complex, but I didn't hear any discussion of a small recreational area or swings and slides and that sort of thing, a little park for the children involved.
At this part in time, the little pull-off areas where I said visitor parking and mailbox clusters, we do have some pocket park areas where we intend to incorporate tot lots, maybe some outdoor fire pits, walking trails, to take advantage of the open space that you do have for the community and the open space right down the center. But we do plan or we do intend to incorporate features like that into the project.
Swings and slides, that sort of thing?
Potentially a tot lot, and when I say that, just and a playground equipment of some kind, and then maybe a fire pit, maybe a small dog run or dog park could be incorporated too. We have not 100% nailed that down, but we do plan to incorporate features like that into the development, because we will not have a pool and cabana for this development. And the trail system as well, and kind of tie it all together.
Commissioner
If I may say something, please.
Just one moment, Commissioner Collins.
Yes, sir. There was some mention of a utility that belonged to Georgia Power that ran in the middle of this complex. Is that of any concern, or is anything going to be done with that, or how are you going to work that out? Is there any concern about a utility that runs down the middle of the complex?
I think you're referring to the gas easement that bisects the property, and we have denoted that on our plans. And we will we'll actually have to work closely with them on our road, which crosses over that access easement. There's no concerns on our end, but it will have to be coordinated and permitted with an encroachment permit through the gas company.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for the commissioners? Commissioner Cooks?
Can you hear me?
We can, lightly, yes.
I'm concerned about the density. I think I like the design and the development, but I'm concerned at this price point that there's too many units for this site, and I don't know. I'm concerned that the development's density is going to overcrowd that Tobacco Road corridor, and without the amenity packages that's going to go there, are we going to end up with a rental development that when it's all said and done? That's my biggest concern.
Okay. Commissioner Cooks, do you want the petitioner to respond to that?
I mean, I'm all for development. I'm all for maximizing your yield, but I think a little more aggressive in their planning site would give them a better product and give them a better sales volume. Stacking people on top of people is not the way to do it. That's just my comment.
Would the petitioner like to respond to that comment?
So I believe Kevin mentioned it earlier, the property next door that was just approved, I believe it's to the west. This is actually going to be the same builder. And I believe they're going to have an amenity package and that goes along in that other parcel that was approved. So there will be shared amenities and shared, and that entrance on the far left that you see there, it says Firestone Drive at the top left-hand corner of the plan, accesses that new development. So there will be a shared amenity center between these two properties. It's really just two different developers for the same builder.
And it will be a for-sale product.
Yeah, and it will be a for-sale product, no rental product.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any other questions? All right, hearing none. Now, I know this is a different format we're using, so Ms. McCrary.
Yes.
Do you have a question of the staff or of commissioners?
I have a question. I just want to comment. I do agree with Commissioner Cook about the number of townhomes that would be put there. And I just want to say that we as residents of Tobacco Road, we're very interested in having communities that provide amenities. We're wanting to see, the clubhouse in the community, the pool, those types of things that will draw some of our military people and so forth. And so I ask that as you all consider these types of investments, consider the fact that the residents do want new construction with the same amenities that we have on other sides of our county. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the petition like to give their opinion? In that this format is different. We're a little bit out of order on this one, but can you speak to that?
I'll just reiterate what John said earlier, that the neighborhood to the west of this neighborhood will be the same builder that would build this neighborhood. And he's building an amenity center for that product with a pool and clubhouse that could be shared with this development. So there will be a pool, a clubhouse. There may be additional fire pits, dog parks, playgrounds. We have a nice walking trail throughout the open space along the gas easement, which can connect up with the sidewalks, which are shown on one side of the road. And once again, we just feel like this is a good community, and this is would be a good development for this area.
Could you once again remind us the density of the what's being built to the side that you mentioned that we have shared amenities?
I don't know this one. I would say we're at least 50% open space of the whole community. I'm not sure how many is built next door.
I'm not sure either. So look, we're somewhere in the neighborhood between 40 and 50% of open space on this project as well too. I mean, there's several large areas that we're not able to utilize. That's one reason the density seems so tight in the areas that we can use.
Chairman, if I recall, it was 180 units in that other development west of this property.
180 units. So we're talking about putting 300, almost 400 units on one swimming pool.
Real interesting.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on from commissioners? All right, staff.
Okay. Based on the surrounding zoning to the west and the fact that this will be a good transition zoning from the residential zones further to the west and the commercial node to the east, planning staff recommends approval of this request with the following conditions, and there's 16. Okay, number one, the development must substantially comply. The development must substantially match the concept plan submitted with the rezoning application to include tot lots, recreation spaces in this development as referenced by the applicant, as well as access to the amenities in the adjoining neighborhood to the west. Number two, the development is limited to 200 single-family attached residential townhomes. Number three, the third entrance must be provided if the development exceeds 200 lots. Number four, internal roadways must have a 60-foot right-of-way and be 31 feet back of curb to back of curb. Number five, all lots must adhere to the required front, side, and rear setbacks, and a 5-foot side setback must be provided on all end units. Number six, additional overflow parking is needed. All overflow parking must be paved, and suggest overflow parking on the southwest intersection of Road E and Road F and somewhere in the area of Road B. Number seven, a traffic study will need to be performed. The traffic study will need to look at a minimum, right turn decel lanes, left turn lanes, the potential for all-way stop warrants and traffic signal warrants so that it can be determined if the main entrance may need to be upgraded and possibly signalized based on the traffic signal warrants, and if acceleration and deceleration lanes will be required for both entrances. Number eight, improvements internal to the development and within Tobacco Road required by the traffic engineer based on the traffic study and also based on the trips generated by the property owners in the new subdivision will need to be made as a part of the development plan for this project. Number nine, all work within the right-of-way of Tobacco Road must meet Georgia DOT standards and specifications and be permitted by Georgia DOT prior to submission of the development plan for the development. Number 10, stub out to the adjoining property to the north and to the east must be installed pursuant to the development plan with the right-of-way of each roadway, Road C, Road D, and Road F, extended to the external property line of the subject property. Number 11, dead-end streets must not exceed 700 feet in length pursuant to the subdivision regulations. Number 12, any infrastructure installed over through the Georgia Power easement to include utility installation, roadways, the walking trail, or other infrastructure installation will require written permission by Georgia Power prior to any development plan submittal for the development. Number 13, sidewalks with ADA ramps at all returns will be required along Tobacco Road. Number 14, sidewalks will be required internally on at least one side of all roads. ADA ramps must be designed at all returns of internal roadways. Number 15, the walking trail as shown on the concept plan submitted with the rezoning application must be installed in the development unless disapproved by Georgia Power, in which case a walking trail should be installed on either side of the Georgia Power easement. 16, a street yard is required for the portion of the subdivision fronting Tobacco Road. Street yard trees are required to be a minimum of 3-inch caliper, a minimum of 8 feet in height, and unbranched to 6 feet. That concludes all the conditions.
Before we take this vote, Rob, with what they're suggesting about the shared amenities, in your opinion, is this too dense for having those type shared amenities?
You know, the comment sort of put a spotlight on it. 400 units in one pool. That's going to be a lot. I would be, unless it's going to be a very large amenity area in the subdivision to the west. You know, and in the comments that Ms. McCrary made as well, it's almost like maybe they need to step back and take another look at this and see what they can do on their property that's before you. I don't, with that many units and that price range, I suspect that there'll be a lot of children.
So how do we help them and how do we move forward and not hurt the community?
Chairman, I'd like to for them to make a decision.
Commissioner Wright, what did you say?
You know, I'm not sure what I heard.
I said motion to postpone for them to make a decision on how they can address the amenity problem for the property.
Agree.
I'd like to second that motion.
I'd like to
offer. Can I make one more statement real quick?
Oh, sir, we got a Commissioner Cooks. You wanted to make a substitute motion?
Yeah. I'd like to make a substitute motion that requires a developer to meet with the adjacent neighbors, discuss the density of the project, and potentially come back with a lower density and a better amenity package to include all the conditions that were presented with the staff recommendation.
Second.
Lois?
Hey, give me a minute, I'm writing. I had to write that down. Okay, and Commissioner Pittman seconded that. Attorney Martin, do we do the substitute motion first?
Yes, of course.
I guess.
I believe,
yes.
Yeah, I believe we go.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to double check. Thank you.
Yes.
That was a motion to postpone and ask the petitioners to discuss their density, potentially return with an amenity package, a less dense project, and address the 16 conditions that were listed as part of the site plan.
Yes.
Is that correct, Commissioner Cooks?
Yes, that's correct.
Can you hear me? And that, I just wanted to clarify. And that was, yes, I did. Thank you. And that was seconded by Commissioner Pittman. So we'll take the vote. Commissioner Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Jefferson?
Yes.
Commissioner McKnight?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner McCauley?
Yes.
Commissioner Malice?
Yes.
Commissioner Poozer?
Yes.
Commissioner Bartlett?
Yes.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
And Commissioner Spencer?
Yes.
Okay, that motion carried. Thank you.
Okay. That was our last case. We can now look at are there for our legal sessions. Our attorney, were any concerns with real estate?
No, there are no concerns with real estate, personnel, or litigation at this time.
Thank you. Then I'll entertain a motion to approve minutes from April 12th.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Okay, we have a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Business development plans?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
This is site plans for April.
So move.
I'm sorry, I had some conversation in the background. Who seconded that, please?
Jefferson.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, and that completes this session. See you all next time.
All right,
All
bye-bye.
right. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank y'all.
Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Have a good weekend.
I think that restaurant's closing.
Wow.
Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend. Oh, no, it's the beginning of the week.
And happy Mother's Day to all you moms.
Yes, and to all of you as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.